So through the use of extensive archive footage from family home movies and behind the scenes footage from Superman movies and any number of other, shall we say, access points the directors could get their hands on, this Superman story, this Christopher Reeve documentary really does come alive. There is the overwhelming presence of Robin Williams in some of the archive footage as well, which also makes it a little bit more, shall we say, tragic in terms of the moments which audiences potentially have lost and what these actors could have brought. So the overwhelming thing which comes through this documentary is that sense of hope and sort of love and the way that ultimately the accident which left Christopher Reeve paralysed from the neck down in 1995 through to his untimely death in 2004, it really brought the family together. His children, Will, Alexandra and Matthew, run the foundation. They run the Dana and Christopher Reeve Foundation for Spinal Research. I'm sure that's not entirely correct in terms of title, but they've raised millions and millions of dollars, and as a result of that, this foundation has basically funded things which have allowed people with these injuries to ultimately to start walking again, or at least very much go onto the road to recovery and make their quality of life so much better. So I'm going to be giving Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, a 5 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale, because really this is one of the most quintessentially perfect documentaries I have ever seen, bar none. For those unfamiliar with theatre, and specifically musical theatre, the name Lin-Manuel Miranda will not be well known, but for those in the know, he is the writer behind Hamilton. This is the American musical which has been running around, historical musical, which has been running around the world now for what feels like years. Not only that, he was the writer-director behind In the Heights, as well as being in the adaptation of the BBC HBO joint His Dark Materials, which ran for I think 3 seasons, but had Daphne Keane and James McAvoy in it amongst others. But with Tick Tick Boom, you've got this passion project from the writer-director adapting the Jonathan Larson's second play, the one prior to Rent, and it really is should we say, a biography of unique proportions, because the songs are absolutely dynamic and on point, and more specifically you've got Andrew Garfield on fire in possibly one of his best performances. It really does it wears its heart on its sleeve, and it's a truly tremendous performance from Andrew Garfield, but more than that, it also has a social conscience running through it, which sort of examines the attitudes and the way people looked at a certain epidemic, that with the AIDS virus, which was prevalent at that time, and people really didn't have an idea of how it could be controlled, how it could be treated. So I'm going to be giving Tick Tick Boom a 5 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. That's right, I'm giving it the full-on 5, because actually this is epic stuff. So within the first 5 minutes of Black Doves, you really are in the first Mission Impossible movie. That's right, it does lift its opening from the beginning of that exact film. So you have all the pieces laid in place in the first 5 or 10 minutes, and then over the remainder of that first hour, you get a really concisely and cleverly constructed piece of espionage. But this is also a very cleverly written comedic drama where the chemistry between Ben Whishaw and Keira Knightley as this sort of like as these combative colleagues really comes to the fore. It's clever, it's concise, it's fast paced, and the story, although it's not original, is pulled off with some panache and a great deal of flair. It's got some good one-liners, and actually everybody looks like they're having a great time. So based on everything that I've seen so far, I'm going to be giving Black Doves a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. That's right, it doesn't quite hit the high point of a 5, but this is really excellent stuff. So on the surface, what we've essentially got is a father-son fractured reconciliation relationship drama. Ed Harris and Jason Sudeikis are father and son in question. Ben, played by Ed Harris, is a world-famous, renowned, cantankerous photographer who gets in contact with his son after many years of shall we say, being an absentee father. And Sudeikis, as a failing record exec, is forced to go on a road trip with his father father who also happens to be dying of liver cancer. Yeah, it might sound incredibly downbeat and depressing, but actually, ultimately, this is a very optimistic drama. Ben has a certain set of a certain number of rolls of Kodachrome that need to be developed, and this is the last opportunity. So there you go. There's your obstacle. There's your emotional impact. That is the crux of the film. So at the heart of this movie, you've got a boatload of universal truths, these things which keep people awake at night. So you've got, you know, the missed opportunities, those missed moments of relationship gold between parents and children, as well as obviously the whole thing about as you go from becoming a child to a teenager, moving up to an adult, you go through different phases of your life, and ultimately the connection that you have with your parents changes, even though potentially the connection that your parents have doesn't change, because they always see you as this child, as this sort of hopeless or helpless figure that they need to support. So I'm going to be giving Kodachrome, which was made in 2017, is available to stream on Netflix and stars Ed Harris, Elizabeth Olsen and Jason Sudeikis, a 4 out of 5 on a big old 5 scale. Why? Because it's got decent characters, it tells a universal story. Yes, there are moments of formula, but you've got some solid performances in there. And it's essentially a massive Die Hard 2, Die Harder rip-off, but with extra airport action, and obviously our chiseled hero throwing himself around, airport departure lounges, whilst Bateman looks shifty in a black cat. So for my 2 cents, I've always liked Taron Egerton as a character actor. I think he has tremendous range, and as yet there is an untapped potential that may lead to greater things. But in Carry On, he is going for action hero mode. Whether or not he pulls it off is up for debate, but he certainly does the sort of underappreciated and sort of underachieving action anti-hero to a T, as well as being sort of a surrogate family man in the making. Then there is Bateman, who has come out of his shell massively, has been around for a long time, made a huge dramatic impact with Ozark, and shows that he has just an awesome amount of range, can do darkness, can do villainy, and you can get that sense of uncertainty, which he really does bring to the character here, which, by the way, goes unnamed throughout. But ultimately, Carry On has nailed it. Yes, it is an homage. It's a love letter to Die Hard 2 on a number of different levels. And does Taron Egerton actually pull off the action man element? I'm not entirely sure, but Bateman certainly does darkness, and he does it well. So purely for entertainment factor, I'm going to be giving Carry On a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. That's a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. Why? Because Egerton is good, Bateman is good, the setup, the structure is familiar. So on the surface, A Man on the Inside is very much, it's a gentle comedy about a retiree who has lost his wife and finds an alternative pursuit. In this case, he goes undercover in a retirement home as a PI, following the theft of a resident's necklace. So based on the cast and the people involved, the material itself has to be good. There has to be a massive payoff. There has to be something worth saying about society, about people's attitudes towards the old, towards getting older, towards memory loss, and that sort of like detachment, that sense of isolation and loneliness, which inevitably you feel as you get older when partners leave you and people who you've known for all of your life suddenly leave you alone, for want of a better, nicer way of putting it. So there is more pathos, there's going to be more intellect, there's going to be something much more interesting which gets to the heart of the matter, I feel, in this particular show. So I'm going to be giving A Man on the Inside, which is on Netflix now, a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale, and that is sort of like in the hope that it gets better. So unlike 1917, which was released in 2019, directed by Sam Mendes and photographed by Roger Deakins, All Quiet on the Western Front circa 2022 tells it from the German side through the singular perspective of one soldier in particular, played by Felix Kammerer. He plays Paul Baumer, and he goes into war alongside his friends at the latter stages of the First World War, and you get a real, shall we say, in the trenches feel of what that entire experience essentially felt like. You get this overwhelming sense of emotional resonance, and you can invest in these characters, and you can invest in Paul as he sort of makes his way through the war and survives, as it were, up until the last few moments. But ultimately what you get with this is you get the blood and you get the guts, but you also get the beauty. The cinematography is absolutely excellent. The sound design, for which I believe the original score got an Oscar, as well as obviously the film itself getting Best International Picture in the 2023 Oscars, as well as those 14 BAFTA nominations, really does make this a landmark movie. So I think it goes without saying that I'm going to be giving All Quiet on the Western Front a 5 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale, because this is actually flawless filmmaking. If you can see it in the cinema, if it ever gets a re-release, by God, or if you've got a big enough screen, the 4K disc version of this puppy, then I would slap it in. So from the off, there's no denying that Lift is an F. Gary Gray film. Yes, that's right. I know Matt Reeves is a producer on this, but please, for the love of God, don't blame him. What you have is heart on full steam ahead, full force heart, really. He is a producer on this. He stars in this. He probably helped write the damn thing. But the problem is the story is wafer thin. The action is a little bit, if not completely predictable, then totally predictable. And the script is ever so slightly transparent. Heart is this sort of, I don't know, high-end thief, essentially, this sort of mastermind. Think of like Danny Ocean, but smaller. So this is ultimately one of those films which you can watch and it can just be on in the background whilst you're doing something else. You can dip into it at various points. You'll look and you go, well, that looks nice, because ultimately the production design is solid. The special effects are passable, if not excellent, as in they're not excellent, and you've got enough name actors in there to make you actually stay around to the end to see what happens. So I'm going to be giving this a 3 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. That's Lift is going to get 3 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale for every reason that I've outlined, and I think really let's not waste too much more time on it. Let's dive into the trailer. Let's do that. And so it is, you've reached the end of the video review for Lift. That is the latest Kevin Hart project, which is streaming now on Netflix. So if you've liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Failing that, you can always just drop a comment in the comment box below and I will respond. Finally, you can just subscribe so that every Tuesday and every Saturday when I drop another one of these videos literally into your lap, you'll get a little notification and you can pop in and watch or listen to as much or as little as you'd like, and then go about your day. In the meantime, check out the rest of the channel. Maybe pop over to the Patreon page. Take care. Cheers now. Bye.